Hi there, welcome to the Dylan Rounds case. Today I'm just going to highlight a good example of hypocrisy, as there are still some humans out there present that did actively engage and participate in the Dylan Rounds true crime case in the past, and references are still made till this day. And I'm not just talking about quoting a case one participated in or making a reference or a comparison to another case out there. I'm specifically referring to people's behavior and actions in recent time where they've done a 180. They've seen the light, they've become an angel, and now no longer the blame's on them and that they're a good, pure, innocent individual. Today is a case study only because we have an example and evidence to work with, but it can apply to a wider scale of humans. So anyone that takes this video the wrong way, as if it's been locked onto one, no, it applies to other people too. But it's just material, what we can look at, what I can share with you, and at least from what I'm aware of in the past when it came with dealing with humans like this and how the case was impacted by these people, but also those in the background. So for example, today, I want to show you Bob Farrell's recent response because the Dylan Rounds case was referenced, but more so, the whole blame was shifted elsewhere, passing on the books. Typical human behavior, of course. And it tends to happen more so towards the end of a case or when there's been a resolve, there's a positive outcome, and it's like, oh yeah, because it's all turned out well now. We all saw it the same way from, we know how it was going to go. This is it now. And it's like, no, I don't think we can be grouping one another together in the same mindsets as what was to be expected, because there are a range of people out there that were in complete denial that Brenner was the one responsible, okay? Let's make that very clear. There was a few people, a fair few creators or audience members both, who were in pure denial that Brenner was responsible. Let's make that very, very clear, okay? And even if people use the excuse of, well, I'm just passing on what I'd been told, yeah, but you were convinced by it because you believed in it yourself. You were persuaded, you became a part of the disease. And there's a range of humans out there that have demonstrated that. And for example, Bob Farrell demonstrated it himself. The magnetizing effect of other factors and people around, and the enabling factors to allow them on YouTube, a call-in, a show. It led to mass spreading of misinformation, more so confusion, disruption. Take in mind, my channel, whilst I am the most consistent creator when it came to the Dylan Rounds case, that I was the one to single-handedly make the most videos keeping the case alive, spreading awareness and putting things into perspective more than anyone else combined together. Whilst that was all done in the background and in sight too, because none of the videos were actually hidden or taken down like how other people have with time. It's not a good look, that. I never did a live show call-in or any of those BS panels. So I was never an enabling factor to allowing people on to give them a voice. I never gave them a voice. They never got what they wanted. Hence why there was resistance at times. The level of entitlement with humans, obviously at an all-time high nowadays with the newer generations and even my generation. But when it comes to this specifically as a microcosm, regardless of age or gender, the factors were a level of entitlement. Me, I want my voice, I want my time to talk and shine, I want my 15 minutes of fame. Doesn't happen here. And we've seen the desperate, wretched, dogged attempts by the likes of Polish Karen, girl in Vegas, same thing, end of the day, barking and yapping like a dog, wanting to tag here, there, doesn't work. One and done video, rewatch, rethink, relearn, simple as. Now, reflecting back on the main part of today, what we're looking at, take in mind a video will be later because it's already been prepared, okay? This video probably will come out earlier, just so there's space in between so people catch up on both. But it's just a good example to put into play here, put in perspective as to what's happened in the past and what's happened now. It's a concept of we all associate and group ourselves together now. We're all in the same boat. No, we're not. That's complete bollocks. Okay? That, because the case has been somewhat resolved for most part of it, the closure has finally arrived for the family. That means all the people from the past that have caused trouble and chaos can now suddenly become angels and innocent and maybe move on to other cases. Bollocks. People need to know their place and where they came from. Okay? And I think other people do too. Why? Just so that in the future, when there's other people, strangers, that come into a community or already present, and a wave of Dylan Rounds exports and ex-creators or viewers from that community move on to another case, there needs to be awareness to who that audience is, who's that band of prats or the collection, the coalition of disruption, right? And obviously most humans won't know. And obviously with time, some individuals or some creators have really parted ways, completely disappeared off the face of this earth for whatever reason. It becomes very fragmented. And that's exactly what was going to happen. That's exactly what I predicted, right? I had a lot of predictions in my mindset and almost every single one was correct. And that's because of experience. It's because I've seen patterns and trends and predicting what will happen next based on what's currently going on and what's happened in the past. And obviously, one of the key themes was history repeating itself. So obviously it made predictions a lot more easier. And because I know how humans work most of the time, their behavior, their attitudes, personality, pretty simple. Whether you use psychology or not, common sense will make you see very clear as to what's going on, who is who, and what they're all about, okay? Now, what I need to show to you now, so it reinforces this video and the whole point of today, is what Bob Farrell had to say, I think, just recently. As for all the other stuff, no clue what's going on there. But because it's specifically talking about Dylan Rounds and passing on the buck and the blame to other people, we need to look at that right now. Here we are, 3 hours ago, all in capital letters, as usual. I guess that means we got to do it so it's realistic as for the tone of voice as where it's coming from. So Bob Farrell said, "Damn it, I got home before and watched Jim's Rumble. Left my ass off. Damn, that was a good show. And no, I didn't win tonight. My nephew won. The food was good, but anyways, Jim is right about one thing. Being away from BS is hard to start back up. I came right from the start. I told you. I was not here for the fun money. I was here, got so involved in Dylan's case and who I am. Leatherface is right. I'm not changing for anyone. I'm not going to Leanne's for meatballs or pasta. You either like me or hate me, but it's all good. Keep on fighting. It's funny. One day you love me and next day you hate me." So, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. You can clearly see there's reference to Dylan Rounds, right? It says, "I was here and got so involved in Dylan's case." So because of Bob Farrell getting so involved in Dylan Rounds' case, it just so happened that people who he's having trouble with and falling outs with were also there in the Dylan Rounds case too. So they're kind of in parallel to one another. You might have problems, you might develop issues with humans, and it just so happens to occur in the space you're actively working in, participating in an activity, a case, anything out there in life, online, or in real life, regardless. So, really involved. Was Bob Farrell really involved in Dylan Rounds' case? Yeah, I'd say so. For the right reasons, maybe in his mindset, yes. But when you look at it from the outside looking in, you see it differently. Now, who is Leatherface? I've heard that reference in the past. Is that a description of someone's face, their skin, their complexion being poor quality, like leather, poor fake leather? I don't know. Is it from Temu? I'm sure some ambassador can come out with the codes and coupons. Now, move on down here, another reference to Dylan Rounds, and this is the main one, okay, in case you're wondering. I guess we'll do it in capital letters again.
I've decided not to delete my channel. Change my mind. I'll leave my channel up and running, as I'll always follow anything regarding Dylan Rounds. Many haters don't want me to keep his picture up, but screw all of you. I started my channel for the young man, and I'm leaving it this way. Get over it, folks. I'm not going away. Well, I don't think I am, not yet. I'm staying somewhat quiet for now. We're days from the day he went missing. I'm so glad that Brenner did what he did, gave him back to his family. Now, as many of you want to know as to why he was killed and to learn the truth of so many things, I've never made up stories about him, never. I only said things to y'all that were told from me. Many of the deals came from which Irish Rose. I don't make stuff up, never did. You can believe what you want to. It doesn't bother me one bit. And to those who want to see me die, up yours. I have no plans of dying. Someday I'll do a live pop-up just so I can hang out. But right now, less said is better for now.
Now, this interesting, very interesting. And don't worry, I'll read back over it just in case you didn't quite hear what was being said then. Anyone confused? Well, it's in capital letters. It means the person's shouting, and we've got to do the tone of voice to make it as realistic as possible, of course. Now, the last part where it says, but right now, the less said is better for now. So, need to shut up and keep quiet. How many times has Bob Farrell said that in the past? Oh, I need to step down. I need to keep quiet. I need to back off. And then pops up again. Exactly. False promises. Exactly like salty pancakes. Oh, moving on to a different case. I'm moving away from Jim Terry. We're going to focus elsewhere. Bigger, better, positive things. And then it goes back to the same old cycle. Can't get away from it. Exactly. Okay? And there have been a few other people as well, like Mr. X.
Oh, I'm done with your channel. By the way, Wallograph, I don't care about maps. I don't care if you're from the UK. I don't care about missing people cases, even though I spend all my time here talking. I'm done with you. I even put you on mute because I've got better things to be doing. I'm a high-end individual. I could be talking to Leanne or Danielle. Don't want to be dealing with that bitch anymore. But nevertheless, I know what I'm doing. I need to get away from this place. I got better things to be doing. If I see what you're crazy, I'm jumping up panel right now.
And yet, they kept returning back for a certain period of time on their hands and knees. That's what was very interesting. And that time as well, it's very ironic, the time when Mr. X gave his motivational positive speech towards me. Keep on doing what you're doing, Raph. Don't let the haters get you down. But he turned into one. Yet I continued on, because that's the original advice one gave. So if they don't like what one does, then they shouldn't have given out quotes in the first place. That's the pure, true definition of a delusional, positive human out there, and it applies to many humans on this planet. Those that give out motivational speeches and motivational quotes on a daily basis, they don't always follow it themselves, or they end up going after the people that follow them. They don't practice what they preach. Nevertheless, to the top, Bob says, I've decided not to delete my channel. So we know in the past, Bob Farrell, during the Dylan Rounds case, was going on saying, oh, I'm going to step away. I'm never going to come back. I'm stepping down. That's it. Me done. And then keeps coming back and coming back and coming back. They can't help themselves. Okay? So false promises. Now, anything else? Bob says, regarding Dylan Rounds, many haters don't want me to have Dylan's profile picture up. But I started my channel for Dylan and I'm leaving it that way. Right. So who are the haters that want Bob Farrell to take down that profile picture? Who exactly? Ty Corbin? Justin Rounds? Anyone else? Because I remember there was some video in the past where Ty Corbin was supposedly the messenger speaking on behalf of Justin Rounds, not exactly ordering, but advising Bob to take that profile picture down as it was causing trouble in the background with the family, supposedly. Who else? Who else wants Bob to take that profile picture down, I wonder? Now, what I would say personally, having the profile picture of a missing person, or really anyone, can come across as an impersonation, right? Obviously, the username is different, and the content, well, they've got their own voice, Bob's voice. But still, me personally, I would never have a profile picture of someone else, especially more so in a missing person or true crime related case, right? I mean, some people will have a profile picture temporarily as a form of honouring someone or some kind of respect. But to be honest, that's just a bandwagon trend, in which I think it started when it came to ISIS, 2014-15 onwards, with the Paris attacks, the Manchester Arena bombing. Oh, show no hate, just show love, but let's allow them all into this country at the same time. Let's hug everyone whilst people are getting blown up, body parts and limbs all over the place. No, let's not fight back. Let's not resist. Let's not retaliate. Let's not defend ourselves. Let's just stand around, have roses and colourful rainbows and silly little profile pictures with candles, vigils and prayers, because that will do a lot. Fuck all, right? This is the reality. Actions speak louder than words. Like when it comes to the ongoing war elsewhere in other countries, you get all these protests in countries that aren't even impacted or affected by it. Instead of protesting and causing trouble to people day-to-day life, if you feel so passionately about it, well, go into that fucking country and do something about it. But you won't. Right? Exactly. So, when it comes to this situation, a lot more watered down. Some could see it as an impersonation, others could see it as creepy. This is the thing, and this is just being realistic. Because of the age Bob Farrell is, and because of the age Dylan Rounds is, if one is covering a case for a fair bit of time, sometimes people's outlooks can be somewhat negative just because of the age factor. Although it doesn't really make sense or it seems a bit silly, you know how people react, right? But besides that, there's been certain behaviour with time where it's been a bit questionable, as we've seen, whether it was a joke or not. So the person doesn't do themselves any favours. But regardless of that, okay, I do remember in the past Bob Farrell talking about having Dylan's profile picture on his channel up until there is closure, up until there is a resolve. And obviously that's happened now. Yet Bob Farrell is still keeping it up on his profile. So once again, false promises, not following what he originally said in the past. So he's gone against it, which is typical. The time when Ty Corbyn, the messenger, was asking Bob to take it down, and Bob was like, sure, I will, and then put it back up afterwards. I don't know, kind of childish behaviour that from both sides, right? Should you be forced to take down a profile picture? Not really, it seems a bit weird, but then at the same time, back and forth, oh, I'll take it away, I'll put it back up. It's like cat and mouse games, dilly-dallying about. There are other important things going on, of course. So things like that, a little bit random. But the main story is Bob having Dylan's profile picture because his channel, his content was all about the Dylan Rounds case, which up to a point was true. And then came the live shows, the panels, the presence of Jim Terry, and it drifted away from Dylan Rounds and more about other things and random stuff. Okay? Profile picture Dylan Rounds, thumbnail from time to time Dylan Rounds, the actual content, nothing about Dylan Rounds. And Ty Corbyn at times supported that and joined along. So, yeah, I mean, some could argue a form of clickbait then. And yet Ty Corbyn supports that. Yet whenever I do a video specifically and only based on Dylan Rounds, Ty Corbyn comes on in and says that's clickbait. So, in the mindset of Ty Corbyn, with a warped mindset, that if you have a video or a live stream which has Dylan's thumbnail, the thumbnails of Dylan Rounds, the profile pictures of Dylan Rounds, the title could even mention Dylan Rounds, but the actual contents of it for about 4 hours worth of absolutely nothing to do with Dylan Rounds, that's not clickbait. But what I do is, yeah, that's definitely a warped mindset. Typical humans. That's all that can be said there. Typical humans. Now, move on a bit more. Started my channel for Dylan, leaving it that way. I'm staying somewhat quiet for now. Really? One that said in the past and then came back again? Not following through with it? This is where it gets interesting. Bob says I'm so glad that James Brenner did what he did and gave him back to his family. Now, as many of you want to know as to why he was killed, I don't think Bob's even in a position to be talking like that or asking some kind of question or rhetorical question when he's the one that was part of the problem, actively engaging and being in denial of Brenner being the one responsible, being influenced and brainwashed by Corey, of all people, and some other humans in the background. Whilst it might not directly be Bob, the main problem, still a part of the issue in the background, easily convinced and brainwashed. And you could say, oh, vulnerable. What about the family? Aren't the family the most vulnerable people in the case because they're the ones impacted and hurt by what's happened because of their son going missing? But if they listened to anyone, they could get screwed over. And did it happen? To a small extent, it did, but did it lead to them spreading misinformation on a mass scale online? No, not quite. Did it with Bob? Yeah. We'll need to look into that. Now, it's not just Bob Farrell that could be problematic. It can be the shack lady. It could really be anyone that's caused disruption, confusion, poor language and wording, even if they were just coming up with an idea, but their poor language and wording in the video, in the title and thumbnail, it made it seem like something else. And it lasted for quite some time. The shack lady demonstrated that with her language and poor skills. So it caused a lot of confusion and misdirection. Very unfortunate, part of the problem and issue in general. Okay? So we've got that. Also, you can leave your thoughts down below as to what you think. But yeah, quite a lot of the people, quite a lot of the problems when the Dylan Rounds breaking news came out about, the body being found in the closure, a lot of people rushed online and shared the little post, did the little repost, oh, breaking news, breaking news. Why do any of them deserve to be a part of the breaking news or engaging in it when most of those people were against it in a way, right? And you could say, how are all these people like Bob Farrell, Shack Lady, Karen in Vegas, even JT, even some of many of us, Pancakes, his community, his ex-community, Kaylee, Fumble, a range of different people. They're all against Dylan Rounds being found. That's going to trigger humans. But it's very simple as to why. Because all the humans that were responsible for misdirection, confusion, slowing down the case and progress in the case, well, it's as if you're working against it being solved. So you can add that link in. If you hinder or slow down a case, it's as if you don't want Dylan Rounds to be found. Because you're dilly-dallying about with all this information, you're fumbling around with it, miswording things, adding in rumours and enabling it as well with others coming on in through Hell's Gate. So, yeah, doing no favours to Dylan Rounds. Okay? That's the human race for you when you look at it. Now, anything else to acknowledge here? So, yes, as I said, Bob Farrell at a time was convinced that Chase Venstra and Robert Aviles was responsible and James Brenner was innocent, a fall guy, and a couple of other people believed that too. Well, look where we are now. So Bob Farrell has no right to be talking about, I'm so glad that Brenner did what he did, gave the closure to family, and that many of you may wonder why and how he was killed. Well, Bob Farrell is in no position to be talking about that, and neither are the other people in the background. Now, Bob says, I have never made up stories about him. I only said things to you all. Well, that's the same exact thing. Making up stories, you say you never did that, but you say, I only said things to you all. That's very poor wording. What comes across here, what Bob is trying to get at, despite poor wording and language demonstrated here, Bob is saying, I never made up stories or misinformation about Dylan Rounds. I was only passing on things to you all, which other people told me, right? That's how it should be worded, a bit clearer and a bit better, okay? Bob's saying many of the details came from the witch, Irish Rose. Never really heard of them, never really seen them before. I wonder why. So what about Corey then? You know Corey, talked a lot and said a lot and was really convinced Brenner was innocent and that others are responsible, that phone calls never happened on the day with Dylan. Where's Corey now? You know, you didn't. Corey went very quiet when that breaking news came out, when Dylan's body was found, right? Scuttling away, typical human like the rest. Yet Bob Farrell doesn't mention Corey's name here. Interesting. Now, if Bob Farrell still defended Corey, well then that would be a slap in her face, because Bob Farrell here is glad that Brenner did what he did. So basically Bob is suddenly now acknowledging that James Brenner is responsible for it all, and yet not mentioning Corey's name in the mix of this, because Corey was the one to create disruption as well. Said a lot of bollocks and bullshit, and even convinced Bob Farrell in the process. So why isn't Bob mentioning Corey's name here? If he's defending her, well, your thoughts don't align with her anymore. So there's contradictions all over the place. It's a complete form of, incompetence, fragmentation. It's not looking good. Anything else? I don't make stuff up. I never did. You can all believe what you want to. So Bob Farrell is demonstrating a goldfish mentality, exactly like Jim Terry, exactly like Mr. X and some other people, in which actions and things were said and done in the past, but all of a sudden now it's, well, I don't remember doing it. I don't remember. Yeah, a lot of people have short-term memory these days, and even long-term memory issues. How convenient, right? But just as an example, Bob Farrell, Shack Lady, both together, live stream, Bob Farrell talking about the horse box trailer, Chase Venstra Viles kidnapping Dylan, tying him up in the trailer, and then Dylan accidentally getting the rope around him onto his neck and then hanging himself. Yes, I remember very clearly what Bob Farrell said there in the Shack Lady's live stream. Is that going to be passed on, though, the blame in the books to someone else you were influenced by? Yeah. Even if you heard from what someone else said, at low standards, easily convinced, easily pleased, and then you became a foot soldier in passing this stuff on. No different, right? I mean, the people that get radicalized by ISIS, okay? Oh, innocent, vulnerable people, brainwashed, and then you act out and follow ISIS, the actions, the damage, right? And once the damage has been done, once it's fallen, the original group, well, you expect to be returned back safely to your country, de-radicalization, to be fixed, to be healed after what you've done and caused. No, lost cause now. You became a part of the problem. You are the problem now. That's exactly how it is with Bob Farrell, Corey situation, some other humans out there. You can have the originator, almost like the cult leader, if you want to call it that gathers everyone around, convinces everyone, persuades everyone, brainwashes everyone, and then everyone all acts out under the orders of that one. So they all do bad actions themselves. They become a part of the problem and just as responsible as the leader, right? So people passing on the buck and scuttling around, finding a scapegoat, that's exactly what Bob Farrell is demonstrating here. The others out there have just simply, wiped the slate clean, pretending like in the past it never happened, with who they surrounded themselves with, what they did, what they said, what they enabled. No, they've gone quiet. They've moved on to other cases as if that the past won't follow them. How unfortunate. At the end of the day, you can be the one to start a rumour, misinformation, cause misdirection, poorly word something. You can be the creator of that trouble and the main one responsible for it. But equally, those who listen in and are convinced and believe in it, not with any questioning, not with any form of doubt, they just nod their heads like yes men, yes women, they become a part of the problem, especially when they start distributing it out to the mass public, right? Both sets are a problem. So even if Bob Farrell wasn't the creator of misinformation, he was a part of spreading it, right? Now, what about the time when Corey ended up opening her mouth on my channel and I read the comments out? Because that's what I do with any comment on my channel. But how I read them with a level of caution and skepticism. People don't believe me. It got to the point where Corey got triggered just because I did not acknowledge her 100%. I was still cautious. She took that as an insult because I did not nod my head. I kept my head still, okay? I'm not a bobblehead. So I would read comments or points out and say, so this is what supposedly happened. This is supposedly the story. And obviously humans got triggered by it. Taylena got triggered by it. And it's also interesting how in recent time, Taylena has gone very quiet, considering the gatekeeper of where is Don Hatley's place of living? Well, we can't give you the location. No, because it will be detrimental to the case. It will lead to burglary and people going there. I'm closing my eyes because of the sheer idiocracy of the situation. Okay, I'm not blinded by the light. I am the light. And one thing to highlight clearly is that when it came to the Dylan Rounds documentary, publicly viewable, many humans would have watched it by now. Heavy D's footage, original flyby, over. Location documented, 1 million plus people watched it. What I'm trying to get at is, whilst Taylena was the gatekeeper of Don Hatley's place of living, with valid claims by her as to why it can't be revealed, yet already it was in public sight, maybe just not made that clear, right? A public documentary giving out the location, revealing how it looked, where it was roughly. And people can say, oh yeah, but no direct coordinates were given or no named. It was a viewer on my channel that simply looked at a photo and then matched it up with Google Earth. So pretty much it's easy to get a hold of regardless, okay? They named, they labelled, confirmed it to be Don's place. All along it was in public sight, yet Taylena was gatekeeping it for no good reason because it was already publicly viewable. How silly is that, right? This is the sheer idiocracy of humans in general. But reverting back, how I read comments out and how I address certain things, very specific wording and language, and as repetitive as it may be, it's very important. Repetition, key to the mastery of mastering the skill of thumbnails, titles, okay? Appropriate nature and links to one another. If people don't look clear enough or take time to consider the titles and meanings, they misinterpret it, that's on them, that's their problem. But when you do get channels out there with the outlandish claims and over-dramatic titles at times and thumbnails, it can be misleading. And what's being talked about is very misleading because whether they're creating it or they're passing on the misinformation, they've been easily convinced, which is not a good look. No levels of skepticism. And even if people want to do a 180 turn and suddenly say now how, but what? What? Language, wording, you like it, using it incorrectly. You may think it's just an idea, but how you say it, you're saying it, you're pronouncing it as a fact. That's a problem. Because once it's shown or spoken as a fact, some people can believe in it and easily convinced, and then it spreads and spreads like a virus, a disease, and it takes over. It was that chaotic that even a couple of my viewers, only a couple, were convinced by it themselves and changed in behaviour. Got convinced by Bob Farrell, in which Bob Farrell was convinced by Corey. Small chain reaction. Bob Farrell, his community, his audience, his ex-audience, let's not forget that, are a human centipede, fed from mouth to bottom, and it passes on all the way. The human centipede effect with quite a few people in the Dylan Rounds community. Was I the doctor in that case that stitched everyone together? No, they stitched themselves up in many different ways, and that can have different meanings as well. So, whilst people may have parted ways since and there's been even more fragmentation and implosions within different communities, it was all predicted as expected, no surprise there. Some people worse off for wear, is why it is. But this whole passing on the books, passing on the blame to somebody else when you yourself was responsible, it's just not a good look, okay? So Bob Farrell, in the past, Bob Farrell could play the age card, the vulnerability card, just like how people play the mental health bandwagon card, the race card, the sex card, the gender card. It's all very manipulative of humans out there in life situations. When you're done, when you're busted, when you're screwed, you may use a claim, try and act vulnerable to gain leniency. Almost like what James Brenner did in court, in one of the court hearings, limping along. It's like Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds highlighted, maybe exaggerating it to make it look like he's hurt and he's sad. Because you saw his facial expressions. Maybe it was done so people would feel sorry for him, right? It's all forms of manipulation. Whether you directly manipulate someone or indirectly through body language, behavior, facial expressions, tone of voice, giving them the eyes, the puppy dog eyes, whatever, to get what you want. Just like how you can get paedophiles that say, I'm sorry, only sorry because they're caught now. They may even cry. The domestic situations, whether it be the female or the male, they've done something bad to their partner or friend, and then after the damage that they caused, then they suddenly play the victim and then cry. And the actual person hurt by it then ends up feeling sorry for him, and it's a repetitive cycle. Exactly what's happening here with Bob Farrell. Oh, it's not me. No, I'm never to blame. Always passing on the books. Very similar to other humans out there, okay? So just wanted to highlight that because typical human behavior coming full circle, and it ties in with my final prediction. One of my final predictions in the past was, when it comes to the end of the case, everybody all gathers together as if nothing ever happened and we're all in the same boat and it's all nice and innocent. No. Bollocks, get away from me, okay? Predicted it once again, documented it once again, looked at material, valid points made, simple as. And you know what the interesting thing is now, okay? You compare my valid criticism of Bob Farrell now to back then, there'll be less resistance now because more people can't stand him, right? But the more people that can't stand him now are the same people that couldn't stand me back then when I was going after Bob and making valid criticisms. Yeah, very typical. Low standards. Come on, get a grip. Very disappointed. But at the same time, not too surprised because my predictions, most of the time, come right. And I said, most of my predictions are negative. It is what it is, but it's accurate, simple as, end of. So, feel free to share the video if you wish to. I'll leave it there for now. We'll have a key video coming out later. Be on the lookout for that if you want. And yeah, thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.